Welcome to Behind the Recipe. I'm your host, Christina Hitchcock. Join me every week as we dive into the joys of cooking, explore kitchen tips and tricks, and share delicious recipes that will inspire your next meal. So whether you're a seasoned cook or just learning your way around the stove, there's something here for everyone. Psst, psst, psst. But before we dig into today's episode, have you seen my new site, cakemixrecipes.com? It's loaded with fast, foolproof, sweet, and savory recipes made with packaged cake mixes and other pantry staples. It's sweet, it's simple, and totally worth a peek. So make sure you check it out after the show. Now, back to the show. Today, we are diving into one of my favorite kinds of episodes, the kind that's fun, honest, and let's face it, totally relatable. We're talking kitchen fails. Yep, those moments when things go sideways in the kitchen, when the recipe doesn't turn out, the oven turns on you, or you try to get a little creative and it backfires big time. After years of cooking, I still have the occasional disaster. And instead of hiding them, I like to share them because honestly, that's how we learn. And those flops usually make the best stories. So let me walk you through some of my most memorable kitchen fails, what went wrong, and what I learned from each one. Okay, number one is what I'm dubbing the melted spoon incident. So let me set the scene. It was a busy weeknight, and I was making a cheesy baked pasta dish, one of those comfort meals that you can almost make in your sleep. Well, I stirred everything together with a big plastic spoon, and I popped the dish in the oven and totally forgot to remove the spoon. Yep. About 10 minutes in, I started smelling something odd, not quite burning, but kind of funky and definitely not right. So I opened the oven and there it was, my spoon, slowly melting into the corner of the dish like a Salvador Dali painting. Plastic strings everywhere. The whole meal was awash because you can't eat melted plastic. So what I learned here is always do a double check before putting anything into the oven. Now I always pause and ask myself, is everything in here supposed to be in here? And that 1 second has saved me more than once. So sticking with the oven theme, I'm going to move on to my next fail. And it's actually not a recipe fail, but just a lesson that you should learn. It was We had just moved in to our new house and it was my first meal that I was making in the new kitchen. And it was a chicken dish that started on the stove and then it finished cooking in the oven. So I got the chicken going, got everything together. I put it into the oven, went about my business, making the rest of the meal, so eager to sit down and eat that night. So eager because this is one of my favorite recipes to make. So I go to take the pan out of the oven. I open it up. I grab the handle. I grab it. And it really, honestly, it's almost like you see on TV where it takes a couple of seconds for the pain to register because you see, I failed to use a hot pad. And I grabbed a hot skillet handle out of the oven. Now, part of this was probably because my brain was going in a million directions at once. The other part of it, I just wasn't thinking. And it took a hot second, no pun intended, a hot second for my brain to register the extreme burning sensation in my hand. And I grabbed my pan. I'm left-handed, so I grabbed it with my left hand. So it was my left hand that was literally sizzling to the handle. When I let it go, I had 21 blisters on my left hand. It was extremely painful. So that chicken dish that I was so excited to eat, we didn't really get to enjoy it because I was rushing around putting cold water on my hand. I had to ice it. I probably should have went to the hospital, but I didn't. My hand was down for about a week with that one. So I learned that when I put a hot pan into the oven, I put the hot pad right next to it so I know to grab it before going in. And it's a great lesson, especially if you cook with cast iron. If you take a hot pan out of the oven, leave a towel or something draped over the handle so you don't accidentally grab it and burn yourself. That was awful. It was a horrible experience. So moving on to something that wasn't not pleasant, but not that displeasant. This is one, it still makes me cringe. I was baking cookies for a school event. I had everything ready. I believe in mise en place, getting everything out, flour, butter, eggs, vanilla. And I grabbed what I thought was sugar. Spoiler, it was salt. The dough looked perfect. Everything seemed great. The cookies smelled good in the oven, but when I bit into one, because you always have to try a cookie as soon as it comes out of the oven. I mean, what would I be if I'm not quality control? I bit into it. Total salt bomb. Yep, that was a mouthful of disappointment right there. And yeah, I had to make up a backup batch of cookies. So I was back in the kitchen baking those cookies again, this time with the correct ingredients. My brain is always going in 20 different directions. And as you'll see from this episode, it doesn't always suit me well. But what I learned here was to label your containers clearly. And now I keep my salt in a completely different cabinet than I keep my sugar, just so I don't ever make that mistake again. I'm setting my kitchen up for success. I label my containers clearly, and when I'm baking, I always pinch off a little bit of the dough just to make sure it's sweet and not salty. Even a quick finger swipe around the bowl or licking the beaters probably would have helped me determine early on that I use salt instead of sugar. All right, let's see. Next one. This one hurt. And we're back to the oven again. I just pulled a bubbling, cheesy baked ziti out of the oven. It was one of those meals where, you make the sauce from scratch. It was so good. It looked wonderful. It smelled fantastic. The cheese was ooey gooey. I was so proud. Well, in my rush to get things to the counter, I lost my grip on the pan and the entire dish slid off the oven, down the door, and it hit the floor. Splat, cheese, pasta, sauce everywhere, not to mention glass. And of course, you hear the commotion. Who comes running but the cat? So you have to try to keep the cat out of all of that. It was not fun. So, what I learned here, take your time. Yeah, take your time when cooking in the kitchen. Make sure you have hot pads. I buy them that have those gripper things on them so that they always have a good grip on what I have. And the other lesson I learned is to keep a frozen pizza on hand because you never know when dinner's going to go splat on the floor and you need a plan B. Another one, since we're on the topic of casseroles, I was going to bring a casserole to a potluck one time. This is a big oopsie. Again, I'm proud of it. I like it. There's nothing like a casserole, and it's a great party food or potluck food. You have the layers of pasta and sauce, everything, and it looks beautiful when you cut into it, but the middle was cold, like stone cold. I'd cooked it until it was golden on the top, which turns out isn't always enough. And this was very early on in my cooking days. And I learned there that just because it looks done on the outside doesn't mean it's cooked through. So now I use my handy dandy digital meat thermometer, even for casseroles. I have started doing that after this event and I never stopped. And I always, always stick that meat thermometer right in the middle before I take it out and let dishes sit for a few minutes after baking because they'll continue to cook as they rest. And it allows everything to kind of come together again and just, become one with each other. All right, what else? This was a time I tried to get creative and it didn't really work out. So early in my cooking journey, I tried to make chicken salad, but I didn't have mayo. So I thought, well, you always see these recipes, right, where they substitute different things for mayo. So I used sour cream because it's creamy, right? Should be just like mayo. Well, technically, yes, but the tangy sour cream by itself did not play well with other flavors. Now, I'm not going to lie. I like a lot of times when you mix mayo and sour cream together to get the perfect creaminess, but just plain sour cream in a chicken salad, the end result was very confusing, not edible or inedible, I mean, but definitely not something I would serve again. And My husband hates sour cream, so it was a big no-go for him. So what I learned here was swaps are not all created equal. And before substituting anymore, I don't just think about texture, but also flavor and how everything is going to interact with the rest of the dish. And if I'm not sure, I Google it because you never know. Okay, this one again, this was in the beginning. And it's a lesson that once you learn it, it'll change things for you. I love garlic. I know you guys have heard me talk about this before. I use it in everything. I believe there is no such thing in a recipe as one clove of garlic. So don't ever try to give me a recipe with just one clove of garlic because one equals four in my book. So I usually go to a 4-to-1 ratio. But when I started cooking, I'd always saute it on high heat, right? You throw the oil in the pan, throw the garlic in the pan, and you have the flame is roaring because more heat equals faster and faster equals better, right? That was my school of thought in the beginning. But what you get when you do that is bitter, burnt garlic. And let me tell you, it ruins the entire dish. It took just a few seconds too long, and poof, that garlic goes from the perfect golden color and fragrant and nice to brown and really acrid, like ugh. So, what I learned here, and I think this goes like years ago. Remember when Emeril Lagasse had his show on the Food Network? I think he was like one of the pioneers of the Food Network. He always said, and my husband says this to me because I still kind of turn my stove up a lot. He's like, Chris, he's like, there's other settings on that knob besides high. And sometimes I have to think about that. So, usually, if I'm starting with garlic in a pan, I'm starting on medium or medium low. So just remember that garlic cooks fast, like really, really fast. And when you're cooking things like that, that can tend to burn quickly, medium, low heat. And when you add garlic, it only needs about 20 to 30 seconds. Just as soon as you start to smell it, it's done. Move on and watch it like a hawk. All right, let's see. Oh, this is a fun one. One time, I was making cornbread and I forgot the cornmeal. You guys are going to be like, well, you have a food blog and you do all this? Yes, it happens to everyone. And don't let anybody tell you it doesn't happen to them because it does. I had the eggs, the milk, the flour, the baking powder, everything else, the whole supporting cast to this cornbread, but no cornmeal. Yeah, I just forgot. I poured the batter into the pan and I knew it didn't look right. But again, I'm moving through my kitchen fast and furious. Came out pale and flat and just yuck. Definitely not cornbread. So, lesson here is always check your ingredients before you start. That's why mise en place is so important. Measuring out your ingredients, getting them ready before you go. And I always, always, always tell people read your recipe twice and double check that second time, making sure you have all your ingredients and all your equipment, just so you don't end up with the cornbread without the cornmeal. This one is something I still kind of do every now and again as I overcomplicate things, right? I'm guilty of it. There was a phase when I tried to be super fancy in the kitchen because this was early on. I thought that adding more ingredients and using more cooking methods and plating things in a fancy way made food taste better. It doesn't. The food wasn't bad, but it took forever. I made a huge mess and it really didn't taste that much better. So, what I've learned over the years is that simple is often best. So, now I focus on flavor and ease when I'm cooking. I try to coax as much flavor out of my ingredients while keeping it as simple as possible. If I can make something delicious with fewer steps, I absolutely will. And chances are my family's going to like it more too. So, keep that in mind. Cooking isn't about perfection. It's about learning, trying, messing up, and trying again. And some nights you'll burn the toast, you'll overcook the rice, you'll drop the dish on the floor, you might get a blister or two. But that doesn't mean you're a bad cook. It just means you're a real one. So keep showing up, keep experimenting, and when something flops, laugh, learn, and just grab a frozen pizza or some takeout. No judgment. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Behind the Recipe. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. And if you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, to leave a review, and to share it with someone else who loves good food. And of course, don't forget to check out my new site, cakemixrecipes.com. It's full of easy recipes made with prepackaged mixes and pantry staples. Until next time, happy cooking. And remember, everything's better when shared in the kitchen, even the mistakes.